Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us, having a beer, some beer conversation, news, reviews, just all the beery stuff, right?
Yes, all the beery
all
stuff.
the beery stuff.
Everything beery.
Dennis, Mike Nate, how are you going? I'm going to throw a curveball.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
First, I'm doing all right. A little tired today, but we'll get through it. How are you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing okay. Nate, do you think it was disrespectful not to go to the co-host before the producer there, or do you think you need some respect?
You're just keeping him humble.
That's good. He needs to be. He needs to be. Yeah. But Brian Hewitt, co-host extraordinaire.
There you go.
How you doing? And I took the humble right away from him there.
That's right. That's right. I can kind of feel where Mike Nate is coming from, though. I know his schedule's a little rougher than mine. I feel like this week is the embodiment of that GIF I've seen where the kid is holding onto the merry-go-round and it's just dragging him in a circle. He's not even trying. He's holding on, but he's not fighting it anymore. He's just letting it drag him. So I feel like that's me this week. Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna get through. I'm waiting for that Friday, and all will be well again. Probably.
I understand. Yeah, that happens. Work can do that to you, man. Well, Brian, we're sending out thoughts and prayers for you.
Oh, are you? That's good.
Yeah.
I'll need them all.
Yeah, we'll send them your way. But with that said, guys, let's dive right into it. You know what? A little sidebar here. If y'all have been watching the show for a while, then you know that I'm going to say a pseudo foodie. I know there's people that are a lot more serious than I am, but Brian, I'd say you and I both kind of qualify as pseudo foodies there. We enjoy a good meal. When we hear there's a new restaurant or something really nice, we went a couple weeks ago to a new oyster bar and stuff in my neck of the woods. It's really nice, but I don't know if I'd go as far as foodie. I don't think I have the knowledge to call myself a foodie, or maybe I can just call myself that and go.
I was gonna say, I think we can appreciate a really, really good food compared to just good food and just average food. Yeah. And I definitely know that we had thoughts on cocktails there, and so but that's drinks. I don't know if that makes us foodies. We definitely had thoughts about it. I'm like, well, this was not shaken properly, was my thought. For one
absolutely.
thing. So I'm like, does that make me a foodie? I don't know. I didn't say anything. I wasn't a pretentious twat about it or anything like that.
I think Nate will get a kick out of this. I asked him if they did Irish coffee, Nate, and they said yes. So I ordered one.
Mm-hmm.
I got a cup of coffee and a shot of whiskey.
Oh,
yeah.
Was it at least Irish whiskey?
I don't even know. To be honest with you.
Who knows?
I don't know if the waitress just didn't, if she thought that's just what it was. It's like Irish coffee. That's just coffee and an Irish whiskey. So, but that's what I got. And
it's a cup of Joe and Jameson.
Yeah.
I really, really like the food at this place, and I don't wish them any ill will. But what was the thing I got? I got I think they had a Spanish coffee on there, and it was, what was that? What it was?
No, you got an espresso martini, didn't you?
Oh,
it was like really diluted,
and it had floating chunks of ice in it. Like, it was like super. I was like, dude, your seafood is on point, but you need to do something about whoever's making your cocktails.
Rehire your bar manager.
Yeah, it was thin and kind of watery, crushed ice floating in it, and that. So they won't be getting any Michelin recognition for their cocktail program. That's for sure.
No, they will not.
But throwing the segue there, for the second year, Michelin came to Atlanta, gave us awards here, and we won't bore our non-Georgia listeners with too much of this. But Brian, I was underwhelmed this year, and I think the first year expectations, it's the first time anybody's getting a Michelin star in Atlanta. It's big stuff. Everybody's out. So you come around, and there was like 4 new 1-star restaurants. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that was it. It was just less than I expected. And that may be more on me than anything. But for our Atlanta Metro listeners, the new 4-star restaurants are O by Brush, the letter O, B-Y Brush, which I'm not familiar with. Omakase Table, and both O by Brush and by the name, you probably can tell this, Omakase Table are omakase restaurants. So then Spring in Marietta, Georgia got one. Very notable there because they're outside of the Atlanta perimeter, and they're the first one outside the perimeter. Last year, they didn't look at the perimeter locations at all, And then Staple House got one. And if you followed us for a while, then you will have heard of Staple House. The co-founder of Staple House is also one of the co-founders of the Giving Kitchen, which is a charity we've supported many years ago. We had a painting commissioned by a local artist, Kat Lana, and we auctioned off the original painting, and we sold some signed prints of it, signed and numbered prints to raise funds for the Giving Kitchen. So it was cool to see them get a Michelin star, because I know they put a lot into that. But Brian, any thoughts before we move right along to beer here?
No, but it occurred to me like, I'm surprised the Staple House didn't get one last year, but they got one this year, so that makes up for it. I was just thinking, like, how many Tim Dennis stars would you give this performance of the Michelin Awards? Was it not worthy of a star this year?
It gets 0 stars. On that note, though, I had to look to see if anybody lost a star, because you can lose a star, and none of the stars that were awarded last year were taken away. And did some Googling to see. There's been quite a few high-profile restaurants that have lost stars. One of Gordon Ramsay's spots, I think a place he had in Las Vegas, got a star and then lost it, and then the restaurant ended up closing anyhow. So
that's devastating.
Interesting. Yeah. Nate, I don't know if you watched it. This is probably of more interest to you, but they do give out a recognition. I don't think it's really a star, but for cocktail and for the bar. Did you see that? I'm trying to remember who.
I didn't know they did that.
I didn't commit that to memory, but I'm trying to remember. I think Banshee. I think maybe the restaurant Banshee, that their bartender got the recognition. But Nate will hit the Googles for us and find out. Anyhow, that's enough about that. More Michelin stars for Atlanta. Interesting stuff. Brian, what are your beers of the week?
All right. So I started off with, and I kind of have a theme going on, sort of a theme going on. My pregame was a Sierra Nevada Celebration, and I'm actually drinking these out of order. I meant to get into a round trip Oktoberfest Marzen next as my first beer, but I accidentally opened up the Mason Ale Works Bride of Dankenstein, which is a West Coast IPA with Citra, Idaho 7, Cascade, Cashmere, Strata, and Amarillo. So it has a lot going on with it, but is quite nice. It is not, I'm drinking it right now, it is not super bitter for a West Coast IPA, but I was kind of going with a beer for all seasons. So I've got Celebration, which is I guess it's a holiday IPA. I mean, I guess it's what you would consider it. Round Trip obviously is an Oktoberfest beer, and the Mason Ale Works, being Bride of Dankenstein, is a Halloween beer. So I'm kind of spanning the gap, because we're in that weird transitional. We're recording in the weird transitional space between spooky season and the beginning of the holidays, I guess. So.
And pre-Thanksgiving or the mad dash to Christmas. That's
pretty much, yeah.
Dave wished us a happy almost Halloween here.
Yeah.
And because we're recording this on the Wednesday before Halloween, but when the podcast goes out, Halloween will be in the rearview mirror. So we'll take
as will October. We'll be in November.
October, going into November. That's it. Downhill from there. So it will be. It really is a rush. The last 2 months of the year, people are trying to wrap up business, get things done, buy as many gifts as they can, see what perfumes go on Black Friday sales.
That's what they're doing.
That may just be me and Brian. But Nate, what's you drinking this week?
So right off the bat, I am drinking that Parish Weldworks collaboration that Brian had mentioned last week, called Extra Extra Ghosty Bits. So Weldworks known for their juicy bits, Parish known for their Ghost of the Machine. This is a really easy drinking, double dry hopped, double IPA, really tasty. And then for dessert, I've got from Boulevard their 2024 rendition of Proper Pour, which is a Imperial Stout, and it was aged for 2 years in bourbon barrels and then an additional 5 months in California cab casks.
That sounds fancy.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds fancy.
I'm gonna have to look for that. I didn't know that was something we could find around here. But I love kind of red wine barrel finished stouts. So yeah, that sounds awesome.
I would try it. I'd drink it, Brian.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, guys, I am getting into from our friends at Good Word Brewing. I have a No Tango Chavo Pale Lager, which from our Googling we found out does mean that we don't have any money. No Tango Chavo. I have no money, but it is an island style lager, and I am enjoying it. Had great head on there, the foam cap and
Yeah.
retention and all that. That always impresses me. I mean, I know you're making a quality beer if if the head stain, if it just doesn't go away instantly when you pour it into the glass. So I definitely appreciate that.
I do appreciate that. That's a nice insulator of aromatics and flavor, basically. Yeah,
it looks nice. The beer tastes better. It's just it's a cool thing all around for sure. Well, Brian, moving into Nate, go right ahead, sir.
So I did my research, and the individual that was named for Exceptional Cocktails Award winner through the Michelin Guide in Atlanta is Miles. I'm not going to attempt his last name, but it starts with an M, and he's out of Kimball House, which is an oyster bar in the heart of downtown Decatur. We talk about Decatur all the time, Brickstore Pub, and we've talked about Intervoice and Three Taverns and various other alcohol establishments. But Kimball House has an exceptional cocktail program. I've been there several times, and so them getting the recognition that they got is just awesome.
We'll have to go there and have some cocktails, man.
And oysters, right?
And oysters, yeah, of course.
They took part in Le Bon, I think last year. So our first year, they were up there with slinging oysters. It was a good time, for sure. Brian Hewitt, getting into our news for this week. We talked about this, I don't know, a month or two ago. There was an announcement that the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame was going to launch, and more info to come soon. And we have recently heard that the first round of nominees has been announced.
Yeah, they announced it back in August. This is the inaugural round, the inaugural class of nominees for 2024. And it's a pretty impressive list of candidates. I'm going to go through a selection of them. It's almost everybody in there is very recognizable to anybody who's spent any time drinking and, thinking about beer, basically. Larry Bell, the founder of Bell's Brewery, Sam Calagione, the founder of Dogfish Head, Ken Grossman, the founder of Sierra Nevada. It would be a crime if he weren't on there, honestly. Julia Hertz, who is currently the executive director of the American Homebrewers Association, but she's had all kinds of roles involved with the Brewers Association over the years. Michael Jackson, a journalist who is, and everybody probably knows this, but an author known for the World Guide to Beer and a TV show called The Beer Hunter back in the 1990s, R.I.P. Kim Jordan, the co-founder and former CEO of New Belgium Brewing. Jim Cook, the founder of Boston Beer Company. Fritz Maytag, yeah, he deserves to be on there. The rescuer and longtime owner of Anchor Brewing. Jack McAuliffe, the founder of New Albion Brewing in 1976. Garrett Oliver, the brewmaster at Brooklyn Brewery, and a recent advocate we've noted for this the use of the sustainable grain Fonio, which is very intriguing to, I think, all of us. So, and of course, Charlie Papazian, founder of the Brewers Association and the Great American Beer Festival back in the 1980s. And this isn't even a complete list. There are more people. I abridged it for airtime. Yes, Tim. Yes.
I want to mention one because it was notable to me. Charlie Bamforth. Professor emeritus at UC Davis, which they're super famous for their brewing program. So his knowledge, and I haven't been on the homebrew forums in a while, but he also used to answer like random homebrewers questions on homebrew forums and that. So he's just really, really an important part of craft beer in America. Definitely.
That's right. Did he answer one of your questions?
I believe so. Yeah. I was in chats that he's talked about. A lot of times if I was looking for the answer to a question, if I searched it on the homebrewing forums, and I think he was a participant like in the Brewers Association or the AHA forums. But if I went on there and looked, normally his if it was something that was stumping people, he'd come in and straighten it out.
When his name comes up, I remember something from homebrewing days that Stan told us about, or I can't put my finger on. Was there some sort of an approach to the application of yeast, perhaps, when you're homebrewing that he kind of spearheaded, or people? I just want to say that there was something like that. But yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it.
He impacted our homebrewing, which impacted our show. So yeah, he's directly impacted us for sure. So yes. I should have included him in my abridged list. I apologize.
That's that was the one that I saw. I'm like, okay, he needs mention. Well, Brian, question for you. Great list of people. All these folks have done amazing things for craft beer, but is there anybody you think deserved to be in that first round?
That's not on it. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'm sure there is, and I'm just it's hard to think of it. So I noticed that there's, with the exception of Michael Jackson, there's not many in the way of journalists on there, because a lot of the who's who of journalists are on the board of advisors for this. So for them to nominate themselves, I mean, there's
was Stan Hieronymus? Is he on the? Okay,
he's on the list, and I was thinking like, well, if somebody was, an author or somebody that contributed a lot, like Stan, but he's on the board of advisors or direct, I think it's advisors. Like, it's unlikely, knowing him, that he's going to nominate himself. Like, it would be kind of weird. So as long as he's on it, I'm guessing he would not be nominated. But I wouldn't have been surprised to see him on there. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there's more. It's hard to know. Beer is big, and it's been going for a really long time. And there's probably some historic people that should be on there as well, just as a nod to what they've done, how they've contributed historically, because we do have posthumous stuff. We've got Michael Jackson, of course, but we have other people who've contributed in a serious way that could have been involved. And who knows, at some point in the future, maybe they would be. So, I couldn't think of anybody. Could you think of anybody that wasn't on the list that should be on there?
That was my thought. There was Stan. Stan Hieronymus. Yeah. He was definitely the one that I thought of on that. Nate, how about you, man? Any that you can think of that should be on the list?
I don't remember the guy's name, but the fella who did history for Avery, I think, should belong.
Travis Rupp.
Yeah, Travis Rupp.
Because he really dove deep into not only the history of beer making, but like historical beer styles. And it was really, of course I'm biased because I just really was interested in the episode. But I think not only should the Beer Hall of Fame recognize people who advance craft beer, but should also recognize people who are continuing craft beer of yesterday or of yesteryear, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah. And, I gotta say, there's probably so many people that would be worthy of putting on this that have had significant impact. And I'm sure when you're trying to pare this down, you don't want, if you've got a list of 100 people, then what's it mean, really? Like we've seen, I've even seen people talk about like GABF with all the categories and awards. Are like, does it, there's 630,000 medals here. How in the world does this mean anything? And that's the thing, is that it is there's a lot of categories there, a lot of categories and a lot of different beers. So there's a lot to be said there. But definitely it's something, that if you get too much out there, it kind of dilutes the meaning.
I could see one possible candidate that could be added to it. I always forget if his last name is Villa or Villa, but Keith Villa.
The Blue Moon.
The inventor of Blue Moon. So many people started off getting into craft beer by drinking that first and then moving on from that, and it was such a significant thing. And it's still the whole orange slice and all the stuff behind that. I'm like, I could see them giving him the nod for that, because it was a significant contribution to beer in general, actually, just overall, but also craft beer, because it got people there. It even when it wasn't craft anymore, it was the entry point to exploring and discovering what beer could be. So I would definitely have considered him. Maybe not, maybe not in the inaugural one, but maybe like for sure at some point in the future, at some point, some year, he needs to be in there, I think.
Well, that's, the craft nerds like to poo-poo all over Blue Moon. Blue Moon's a fine beer. I mean, it's not going to be my first choice from out there looking. But just like you said, Brian, there's a lot of people that are introduced to craft beer, their journey to craft beer from beers like Blue Moon. And, him telling us a story when he was on the show about going around with cases of oranges, because bars just didn't keep oranges at that time, and saying, this is brewed with orange peel, not lemon, because he said bars were putting lemon wedges on there. So it's something so simple, but it became iconic. You see a Blue Moon with a slice of orange on it. You can see that across the room, and you probably know what's going on.
They turned it into like advertising art, like the chalkboard art, like in the ads recent years, like in the Super Bowl and other things. You see it, and it's just like they're sketching out the tall Weissenglass with the thing in it. It's become icon. It's an icon. It's art and it's iconic. So yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure if I thought longer, I could think of more that I would add to the list. But
you're going to nominate Scott Haneen for the list.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Did it have a biggest pain in the butt category there? So,
probably.
All love to Scott. Good friend of mine. Good friend. Well, moving along, Brian, the Craft Ohana, which is another one of those big brewery partnerships, collectives, I guess that they're called there. But the Modern Times story with Craft Ohana, as you said, things are getting weird here.
Yeah, they are getting really weird. So about 2 months ago, we talked about Craft Ohana shutting down the original Modern Times brewery and moving all the production of Modern Times beer to AleSmith to do contract brewing. So this week, we've learned that Craft Ohana will no longer be directly involved in the daily operation of Modern Times, but they will retain an ownership interest. So to handle the daily operations, Craft Ohana has announced 2 strategic partnerships. The first is with Wings and Arrow, and they will oversee the Modern Times beer business going forward. So Wings and Arrow is owned by the founder of St. Archer, Josh Landon, and another San Diego group has acquired the Modern Times coffee brand and hospitality business. That group, which I don't think has an actual name that I saw, apparently they're already planning to open a new coffee bar and beer tap room under the Modern Times name in 2025. So somehow it's expanding, even though everything about this story is so weird. It's hard to understand. So the transition is expected to take place over the next month. The reason given for the change is so Craft Ohana can focus on Maui Brewing's growing beer and hard seltzer portfolio, which reportedly is up 30%. So that's good for them. But, cutting Modern Times loose like this so you can focus on hard seltzer feels kind of gross to me. But, you got to do whatever pays the bills. And if that's where the money's coming in, I guess you got to focus on it. But I don't know. It seems weird. Doesn't Ohana mean family? Does that mean you put the brand maybe performing in an orphanage and just let it go? Or I don't know what's going on there?
When people use the term family, I think like they talk about businesses saying we're all like a family here. And they're like, nah, don't tell me that. But think about your family or families in general. And I'm not sure it's the compliment when they're like, we're like family. You're like, oh, no. So
no.
Got the drunk uncle that runs his mouth and says the wrong thing and that. So maybe it really is more like family than people think it is when they say that. But
maybe every time
it does we talked about this recently, Brian, just with the stuff going on there with Tilray and the brands that they acquired. And when a craft brewery moves into a portfolio like that of a big company, the dollars and cents matter. And of course, dollars and cents always matter to a business owner.
Yes.
But you don't have your heart attached to the business if you're Tilray. You're not you're not the founder, the owner. You're not a Spike Bukowski that has it that started it up. So it doesn't mean anything. It's all, if it's not making money, it's done, which I guess for the health of a business and profitability, you've got to do that. And it makes sense. And, it's just our emotion here as local beer drinkers that have those kind of attachments. They're out there business in their business.
Yeah. I mean, and we did see the study where, this will have an impact. The more the dog ear the local brand gets, the less I think in general that the local people are going to, love that thing. But they are planning on opening up a coffee bar and tap room under Modern Times. So maybe this is a second a resurgence of it, a phoenix from the ashes, perhaps under new leadership. Perhaps I really don't know with this kind of thing, but yeah,
we'll just have to keep seeing how it shakes out. So much interesting news in beer recently. Just crazy, man. Crazy.
It is.
Crazy.
Crazy.
That's Tyler here made the comment. He's talking about he said, what about the creator of Ballast Point? First brewer to be sold for $1 billion.
Oh, that's a really good point.
So that would be a good one. And I thought, Brian, did I overlook this, or was Vinny? I don't know how his last name's pronounced. Is it
Salurzo? Yeah, I think so. I hope that's right.
Yeah, was it? I didn't see him mentioned. I definitely think it would be. Well, you know what? We'll see what happens with the first year and where we go from there.
I think they have to give a special nod to people that are kind of the OGs in the first round, and maybe
Is
some of
Vinny
these
on
other
the board.
I didn't see him. I didn't see. Maybe it's possible. There is a long list of people who are the advisory board, and there's only 2 or 3 maybe people that are actually the board of directors. So I didn't see him on there. That doesn't mean he's not there. I saw more journalist folks on there than anything else.
Okay. Yeah. And Steve I don't know. Stephen Pete asked, he's like, is Al Sharpton on there? Was Al part of the board?
You know what? I think I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure if he's on the list.
We have to fill in our gaps here. Maybe Nate can do some homework for us there and find out, see who all is on the board there for the Craft Beer Hall of Fame. But yeah, interesting stuff. So it'll be interesting to see who gets in this first round. And again, inaugural list, you can't get everybody in right out of the gate there. So
there's a lot of symbolism and pageantry to the inaugural list. Yeah. So it's got to. I think there's a lot more careful decisions that have to be made. Once you get the groundwork of the people that really, really deserve the utmost recognition, then you can bring in the people that don't quite get the same, I don't know.
I'm 100% sure that these guys didn't take it lightly who they nominated for the first round.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it couldn't have been easy to pare it down and say, look.
I guarantee his name came up. I'm like, but it's like, you know what? We got to save somebody for next year.
Yeah. If you're ranking, you're ranking everything there, looking at era. We're doing a lot of speculation here as to how they did it, but I am sure that it was a pretty in-depth decision-making process there. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, Brian, Brooklyn Brewery is launching a program called Calling All Makers. And for creative types, what's going on there?
Yeah, I thought this might be interesting to people listening to the show. If you're a creative type and you have an idea in one of the 5 announced categories in this Calling All Makers program, you can possibly win a $10,000 grant and a trip to New York City. So the categories you can enter in include food and drink innovation, entrepreneurship, arts, music, and activism. Each category is judged by a different person with expertise on the subject. The food and drink innovation category is, of course, judged by Brooklyn Brewmaster Garrett Oliver. According to the Calling All Makers website, you will need to be able to demonstrate a record of business activity related to your venture in order to qualify and possibly win. So, but you do have until December 31st to enter, so you can get started now doing the things and possibly, winning the money and the trips. So I'd give you the link, but it's going to be too long and weird to read over the air. But you can check out the news section of the Brooklyn Brewery website for a link to apply. And we'll probably post this link somewhere either on social media or in the show notes. So if you want to check that out. Yeah. So
Google Calling All Makers Brooklyn Brewery. I'm sure it'll take you in the right direction.
It'll get you there, or just go to the Brooklyn Brewery website and just look for there's a news section. I think it's either blog or news. Click in there. They have a whole thing outlining all the people who are judging the different categories and their pedigree and, a lot more details than I got into. But you know what? If you got an idea in one of these categories, try it out, man.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I love seeing the cross-pollination from craft brewers there, getting into all these other things. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Well, Brian, some good news, which we don't get to throw a lot around here, but not all breweries are struggling right now. And there's this little brewery, teeny tiny little bitty brewery in Wisconsin that makes a beer called Spotted Cow. And they've announced that they've got a big expansion underway.
Yeah. This is crazy. I guess, what year is this? I'm reading this headline, but New Glarus is breaking ground on a new $55 million facility So it's going to be 65,000 square feet that they're putting in on their home campus. And which is, you might not realize this, but they are actually in New Glarus, Wisconsin. So they're named after the city itself. The expansion will house additional brewing, distilling, and retail facilities. I don't know if they were distilling before now, but maybe they were, but they're definitely going to be distilling after this gets done. So I would be very interested in seeing what they distill based upon my experience drinking some of their very interesting fruited and sour and spontaneous beers that they've released over the years. But everything I've had from them is very exceptional. I wonder if the distilled product is only going to be available in Wisconsin as well. But anyway, reportedly, this expansion will significantly improve the parking situation for people who visit. From all reports, the parking is really limited there. So if you try to visit, it's tough. So that will no longer be a problem going forward. I'm still kind of blown away. That's all I have about this. Like, there wasn't a lot of details, but I'm blown away that somebody's spending $55 million on expanding a brewery in 2024. Awesome.
And that we might want to throw out that's very, very, very important to this fact. They're only available in Wisconsin.
That's right. Only in that state.
And that's when we had them on the show a few years back now, they mentioned that they had, I think, Illinois. I think they went to Chicago for a bit and they went somewhere else and
early on
decided it was too much of a headache, that they were killing enough there in Wisconsin. I was going to say, what other brewery has that type of a hold on their state? And the closest that I could think of, and they've expanded since then, but Yuengling used to be, Pennsylvania, that used to be, Yuengling was Pennsylvania. Now they're all over the place. But I know before they started the distro all over the place, having friends from Philly, coworkers and friends, when I would go to Philly on business, it was always make sure you get some Yuengling. Make sure you get some Yuengling. So that I had it before it started distributing anywhere near us. And I'm like, that was good. That was fine.
Before distro, was it as good as Bowling Alley Yuengling, or is it not up to that point?
I remember just thinking this beer is fine, basically. Okay. And, there's a lot of things like that where In-N-Out Burger, I will probably get hate mail for this, but I've tried In-N-Out and I'm like, this is fine. This is fine. That's our buddy Brad Durham who's watching right now. I think he's an In-N-Out fan because I've seen his post when he goes there, but I'm like, they're fine, man, but I guess if that was part of your culture and your upbringing and you had a double, triple backflip animal style once a week, you've got that attachment to it. But New Glarus, man, they've got the lock on Wisconsin beer drinkers. That's for sure.
They made a smart call because they identify with Wisconsin and Wisconsin identifies with them.
Yep.
Had they not done that, where they were exclusive to Wisconsin, I don't think they'd be doing as well. So it's weird that, we've heard this before, by limiting the availability of your product, it actually makes your product more valuable. I guess it kind of makes sense. I mean, this is how they're able to expand massively in 2024 when everybody else is, not everybody, people are still opening up places, but like a lot of places.
Cow, man. Maybe that's it. Maybe it pairs really, really good with cheese curds.
It could be.
And maybe it's just the match made in heaven there that made it all work out.
I don't think I've ever tried it, but I will at some point in time. Yes.
What, spotted cow and cheese curds? Or spotted cow at all? You've had spotted cow.
I've had
right?
spotted cow. Yeah. I just haven't had it with cheese curds, but now I'm definitely have to try that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Brian, we covered this for the NFL stadiums. We talked about it. I think we talked about it for Major League Baseball at the beginning of the season. But there's bookies.com. They always send us out their little press releases, notices when they do a new article about the cost of beer at sporting arenas. And with the kickoff of NBA season, they went out and tabulated the cost of beer at all the NBA stadiums. So what's a beer going to run you if you go to see some ball?
Yeah. So their foundation is like, they give you the to start off with a family of 4, 2 adults, 2 kids. You've got, everybody has the cheapest tickets, parking, 2 beers, 2 sodas, and 4 hot dogs. But the average price of 2 16-ounce beers at an NBA game in this current season is $25.13, or $12.57 each. The beers are roughly $20 at the Boston Celtics games, which is by far the most expensive in the NBA. The same beers will only cost you $6 a piece in Cleveland, which is the lowest in the league. So that's a huge difference. There's a $14 difference between the two. The runner-up is Oklahoma City. They will cost you $7 each. For people, the local listeners, 2 beers at an Atlanta Hawks games will cost you $15.12 or $7.56. So we're not doing too bad. Yeah, we're pretty inexpensive overall.
Jinx, you owe me a beer at a Hawks game, Brian.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed. So, I don't have the stats in front of me, but going to an NBA game is a lot cheaper than going to an NFL game.
Yeah.
As I recall.
Yeah.
And they're up 3.6% this year. I think it was like 30+% for the NFL. And I'm not 100% sure what the difference is, why it's so much more expensive for the one over the other. There's got to be a reason for that.
I think just
but
the
I have no
popularity
idea.
of the sport, man. Yeah, I mean, people, you know what? There's people that look forward to basketball season, look forward to that, but not like football season, So that's it. I think that's it. You get baseball and football, they're top dogs. Plenty of people do like, NBA and watching basketball, but I just don't think it's the same as, like baseball or heck, I even think that as far as hype level goes, I'm not sure that, attendance or ticket prices or the size of the league or anything, but even MLS, people get passionate about soccer and stuff. I don't know if they have these rally. Do you tailgate for NBA games? I've never heard of an NBA tailgate.
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't.
You would think, why not?
Why? Why wouldn't you? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So. I've never heard of there you go. Stephen Pete saying, number of games per season could be a thing.
Could be a difference.
Yeah, okay. I think NBA, there's like 610 games.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, somewhere there. Rough number.
Yeah, the more there are, the more often people have to come out. The less the
more they're going to sell.
Each game has to be to get people to continue coming out. If you charge the same rate for a much reduced set, you would just have nobody show up half the time.
Right.
So that would be bad.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Brian, before we move on to the next story, how about we thank our wonderful sponsors over at Truck and Tap?
Yeah. So we have made it through spooky season by the time this drops anyway. And I think that means we're finally safe from pumpkin beer. Maybe. I don't know. I think people are over with pumpkin beer by the end of Halloween, but I don't know. Maybe leading into Thanksgiving, they'll still be there. Anyway.
Yeah, you can't get, not yet, Brian.
Not yet.
Pumpkin beers, I think they'll go through at least Thanksgiving.
If they came out in June and July, shouldn't they be done by the end of October? I mean, honestly. Anyway. Yeah, everybody's saying no. Anyway, the weather is still nice here in Atlanta, so I'm in no rush to get into the big, boozy, spiced, warmer beers of the upcoming holidays. That said, stouts are always in season, so the big, boozy ones of those I'm always going to be game for. But let's see what's on tap at Truck and Tap. So here are my beer picks for the week. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm getting Monday night's Prague Fog off the side pull tap. It's a Czech dark lager made with dark Pilsner malt and noble hops. It's an easy drinking, low ABV beer with a little extra maltiness that sounds perfect for this time of year. And I love the side pull tap. At the Duluth location, my pick is Wild Leap's Lone Buffalo. It's a stout aged in a single barrel, and it has notes of vanilla and probably lactose because they do add lactose to it. I did say stouts are always in season, but don't worry. This one has an ABV of only 10.7%. Did you have something you wanted to add there, Tim?
No, that was just a little hand motion for stouts always being seasoned, but I'm going to throw in and then I'll let you finish, Brian. I'm going to let you finish.
You'll let me finish? Okay.
But you're like only 10.7%. Like you're throwing out a session stout there.
They do. I think they've had stuff on the menu that was quote unquote 14% or 13.98763%. So yeah,
but you can't use only with 10.7%. I'm just throwing that out there.
It did go into a barrel though, and it's a single barrel thing. So single barrel, when I hear that, I hear high. I think high proof, especially if you're thinking bourbon.
Like 10% or higher.
I'm thinking 12 plus.
Okay,
so
all right.
Yeah, that would.
Sorry to derail you, Brian. There, go on with the.
That's fine. So mixing it up at Truck and Tap Alpharetta, I'm going with Cortez and His Men IPA from Aslan. It's a New York, or not a New York. It's a New England IPA. New York is in New England, right? Is that right? Anyway, with Citra, Eldorado, and Chinook hops, I've never had it before, but I've enjoyed beers from Aslan before, so I'd get that just out of intrigue. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, let's get that Victory Prima Pils on the side pull tap. I'm a fan of this German Pilsner, and the last time I tried to order it off a menu somewhere, the keg had kicked, so I'm still trying to get that pour that I did not get, and I would get it at the Lawrenceville location of Truck and Tap. But if you'd like to make your own picks, head over to truckandtap.com. They have all the beers listed, as well as information about food trucks, drink specials, and events. And speaking of events, they vary by location and include everything from live music and trivia to football and block parties. Visit truckandtap.com for all the latest details. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. We love you guys. You are awesome. So, Brian, you got me thinking, man. We talk a lot about seasonal creep. And when's this appropriate? When's that appropriate? Some of it tongue in cheek, some of it a little more serious. But Breckenridge sent us some beers, and their Christmas ale being part of what they sent. And I almost got into one of those today because it sounded tasty. But I'm such a vocally opposed to seasonal creep. I felt it would be very contradictory of me, very hypocritical of me to do that. So I didn't. I just got into a lager. But what do you think as the between times, Brian? When does it become appropriate to start getting into those? We'll call them holiday ales to be all inclusive there.
I'm not really feeling them usually until mid-November. I'm not as opposed to those showing up as I would be a pumpkin beer showing up in the middle of summer. If it's colder outside, if the weather gets bad, if it gets cold outside, all bets are off. Like if we're talking 30s and 40s out. All right, let's open those up. But as long as the weather stays nice, and it frequently does here until, some point in November, I'm fine with it. But once you start getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving and you start planning for that meal, and then you've got Christmas coming up right soon behind it, I guess a month later, honestly. But it seems like the right time to do it. It seems like now's okay,
Okay. We even get to the times when we were close to 80 degrees today in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of nights where we got down to the upper 30s, I think, a couple of chilly ones. But, we've had T-shirt weather on Christmas Day before. So,
yes, we have.
It happens. Yeah. It happens there. Nate, how about you, man? What do you think of seasonal appropriateness there?
I'm going to agree with Brian on this. I really think in general, mid-November is when, the holiday ales can start popping up for the same reason that I think that's usually when the weather starts to turn and be more consistently cooler because, dude, it's going to be mid to upper 70s for the next 10 days here in Atlanta. And I still am, I'm drinking a stout tonight. Stouts are for summer, and it felt like summer tonight, so my bottle's not showing up on the stream. But anyways, I for some reason I have a greater visceral reaction if I see Oktoberfest and pumpkin beers releasing in August or late July. And I do seeing a Christmas ale or a holiday ale dropping end of October, early November.
Yeah. Be getting Oktoberfest beers in your Easter basket next year.
Yeah, seriously. I do have a clarification. The very second that Celebration from Sierra Nevada shows up, it's on.
Okay.
That is on.
Yeah.
That I'm happy to drink that as soon as I finish my last, or even before I finish my last Oktoberfest beer, and drink that right through into like February or whenever they disappear. That is an IPA, so it's like it's different, but that Celebration is fine. That's the entire last half of the year beer for me.
And I think Celebration may actually have hit a little later here this year than normal, because I remember many times right around the time of the Decatur Beer Fest, which I believe was typically end of September, that they had that. So I think if it's coming out even mid-October, that's a little later than what we typically see here. But, going back to it, we're in the South, so it skews our seasonal appropriateness for a lot of beers. If we were in the Great White North, but I think even they are still hitting 70s and 80s up in the Northeast. So I don't think the country as of yet has entered the appropriate season for that.
I have definitely seen all of the Christmas beers on the shelf. Within the last week, I was at a beer store and I saw the St. Bernardus. I saw a bunch of the other ones, and part of me is like, should I buy those now? Because I never know which ones are going to sell out. It seems like every year one of them is impossible to get after the first week or two they release.
Start stocking up, man. Get them we got to reach out to our Jewish friends soon to schedule we got to schedule our holiday beer tasting.
The interfaith holiday
craft beer spectacular. Yeah, we got to make that happen. That's one of my favorite traditions we've started. That's just a good time. Get together for some craft beer and gefilte fish. I mean, right. Come on. What a time to be alive.
They go together so well.
What a time. It's good.
Wasn't there's some form of cabbage too, some red cabbage or something like that, pickled cabbage? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
but that Steven said we've already had snow in North Carolina. So, you get into those mountain regions and it can definitely happen a little earlier, but I haven't heard of the big snows yet. Anyhow.
Not yet.
Anyhow, we're waiting. We're ready for you. Winter beers. And you know what? I do think that once we head into November, even if the temperatures aren't down, if I want a holiday ale, I think in the month of November and December is acceptable. I can do what I want with my life.
I still have a leftover Christmas beer that I was going to drink in July as a Christmas in July type of thing. It's still in my fridge that I forgot about. July came and went and I forgot. And I'm like, well, now I can't drink it until later in the year. So I missed my one window of ironic drinking. So
way to go.
Yeah.
Way to go, Brian. Brian,
sorry.
One more story to share. If you're a gamer, if you get around and game and you like beer, then this is for you. I think there may be some out there already, but there's a new ale brewing simulator. And Brian, this from Games Radar. We read this via Games Radar. And that link that they have there, I believe it's the whole article is part of the URL.
Yes, it's an incredibly long link. Yes.
Yeah. Brian, what's up with this new brewing sim?
Yeah, so the simulator is called Ale Abbey, and it's basically a tycoon style game with a twist. You're in charge of a brewery run by Catholic monks. Your mission is to help the bishop build a thriving brewery that will make the monastery the most popular one around. The game was released as a demo for Steam Next Fest, and I'm not a gamer, but that happened a week or two ago. And I guess the current version, they may have updated it since the last time I checked the article, but right now you're limited to brewing just a single light ale, but eventually you'll be able to brew more than 20 different beers in the simulator, which you can tweak with various optional ingredients to unlock special attributes in the beer. You'll also be able to adjust the price, the quantity, quality, and the mash temperature of your brews, as well as aging your beer when appropriate. Reportedly, the game has a playful style with humorous writing, and the writer from Games Radar says that in some ways the game reminds him of an old school Ultima game, if you remember those.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. That is appealing to me. And I haven't played any real games in a good while. I've got a few dumb things on my phone I do, but this is easily more interesting than any of those. I may have to check this out. Are you guys into the idea? Would you play a brewing simulator?
So I'd try it out. You know what I would love is if they did one that this one mentioned that it's brewing with Catholic monks, but I'm assuming it's modern brewing techniques there. You count me in for like a medieval times farmhouse brewer game.
Cool.
Like making Saison, or I saw one where we saw, what's it called? Lars Blog,
yeah.
Garshel.
Yeah.
If we were to do something like that, like he showed one where they put the mash in these big rectangular wooden crates and throw it in an oven they cranked up to like 600 degrees.
Oh yeah.
And bake it, and it just gets, and then they sparge off of that. So you get those roasted notes. I want to do that. I want to sparge over a bed of hay. I want to do all that. Maybe milk a cow for my lactose, stouts and stuff.
That's right.
That's what I want out of a brewing game. Farmhouse. 15th century farmhouse is what I want for my brewing.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Let's grab the ale. What do they call the things where they collecting all of the the halo that, you know, like it's a garland they throw in the beer. It's like a wooden. Anyway, never mind.
The Kvike yeast.
Yeah, they collected it in like a wood, like a structure. I think.
I don't know the name. I know the thing you're talking about, but it's like little wooden blocks that are kind of looped in a halo.
Exactly. To grab as much of that slurry as possible. Yeah.
But I don't know what the name for that thing is.
Well,
does it have a name? I don't know that I've ever heard the name of that thing.
That seems like it does. Well, you know, that would be something you would learn from playing the game, or you could just give it a name, and then everybody would know it is that.
Just make stuff up. It doesn't
it'd be
matter.
Fun. Either way,
throw in some combat. You know, someone comes in and tries to get your beer. You got to beat them up, and then
you break a bottle and you fight with them.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Or a mug.
This has potential. Skyrim, but with beer brewing.
Yes.
Have to fend off dragons and all that. I'm in for that. But again, off track here. The game is called Ale Abbey. The demo is ALE Abbey, ABBEY, FYI.
Yes.
And demo is available for free on Steam. If you're a Steam gamer, you can check it out there.
And I wonder if they've upgraded it since then, but eventually it's going to be better. Did you try it? Yeah, I haven't yet. No, I haven't had time to. So
alrighty.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, y'all, that about wraps our show up for this week. We appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. We hope that you all have a good week, play some games, drink some beer. You know what? If you like what we're doing here, we would love your support on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys, and we're going to get you in our Discord server to hang out with us. We'll send you some cool swag. It'll really be a good time. But no matter what you do, have a good week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.